Welcome to Extracurricular. I'm your co-host, Eddie Geller.
And I'm your other co-host, Stephanie Vanos, school board member for Orange County Public Schools, District 6, but I am here today, as I am every day, unofficially.
Did you feel a little jealous this week because you were not the only Orange County school board member on today's podcast?
No, in fact, I felt happy and excited. We had school board member Angie Gallo. She represents District 1. She was on our pod today, and it was a great conversation. She's also running for school board chair, so we thought it was a great time to bring her on and learn a little bit more about her background. And so I'm excited for you all to hear the conversation.
It was really wonderful, and I just want to call myself out because I think it's always be good to be held accountable. I began this podcast pitting a woman against another woman, and that's wrong, and I shouldn't do that. And I apologize to you. I apologize to Angie and the listeners.
And all women.
and all women. No, Angie was fabulous. I'm really excited we got to finally have another school board member from Orange County on the podcast. It's something we talked about, but there's some trickiness to having another school board member. And I was wondering if you could maybe describe, I know we've talked about Sunshine in the podcast, but I don't assume that, listeners, remember every conversation we have. So can you describe what Sunshine is and how it relates to today's conversation?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Sunshine Law in Florida prohibits school board members and other members of various commissions and boards. Interestingly, the laws are different for state lawmakers, but for, let's say, Orange County School Board, for example, I cannot talk to any other member on my school board off of the dais about a matter that might come for a vote before the board. So, for example, we're going to talk later today. We had a work session this week about e-bikes and e-scooters and CFEs, which is common final exams. So knowing that that is going to come for a vote before our school board potentially, I could not talk to any of my school board members about either of those issues because Sunshine Law just wants kind of all of the conversations about issues that can be voted on to be done in the public and to provide notice. And so obviously this podcast, we stayed away from having any conversations about potential matters that could be voted on. And instead really just spent the time talking about Angie's history, how she got involved with public education, why she decided to run, and kind of how campaigning is going. She
was a great guest, and I think we were very good. We followed the law. You love, as a lawyer, as a public official, you love following the law. That is one thing I love about you. But yeah, it still ended up being a great conversation. But now that she is gone, and you probably could have said this on the podcast, but you've endorsed Angie for chair. Can you tell the listeners maybe a thing or two about why you support Angie in ways that we didn't really get into on the pod?
First, I think I'll just summarize. I think about Angie. I think about experience. She's had, 2 terms of experience being on our school board. She's also served as president of the Florida School Board Association, which represents all school boards across the state. And she has expertise in just so many different matters. I mean, whether it is different policies within OCPS, whether it's about just navigating the district and the system. I mean, it's a bureaucracy, and it takes experience and expertise to kind of know what to do and how to get things done. And she has that. And then the third thing I think of is compassion. She really feels for every student, for every parent, for every teacher, every staff member in our district, and really brings her mama bear energy to everyone. And so those are just some things I really appreciate for her. But yeah, she has ensured that we are, keeping books on the shelves. Yeah. She is in favor of, teaching full history and not sort of presenting a redacted, whitewashed version of history. She is in favor of, protecting students' mental health, all students' mental health. She has advocated for, just common, recess for our elementary kid students, just the elementary students. And I think has just really shown that she is someone who just supports our students and puts students first.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. And why would I have been able to say it better myself? I don't serve on the school board with her, so how could I know her as well? But my time having gotten to know Angie, she's just a fabulous person who cares deeply about schools and education and students and teachers. And so I was delighted we were able to talk about a bit of her background and why she's running for school board chair, and what keep listening to find out what the difference is between a regular in quotes, school board member and a school board chair. Before we go any further, a couple of things I want to talk about before we get to the interview. if you're new to this podcast, do consider subscribing to the podcast, rating us. Steph, what can they rate us?
5 stars only.
5 stars only. And following us on Instagram, extracurricular_podcast. We'd love to see you there. Steph, there's always, we've been away for a couple weeks. You've been working on some things, but I think the thing I want to talk about in terms of your work, and again, we did not go into this interview for reasons you just articulated, some potentially big news about scooters and e-bikes. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so this was covered in a couple of different media outlets this week, but at our work session this past week, we talked about really putting some pretty strong limits on students' use of e-bikes and e-scooters, and in terms of just allowing e-bikes and e-scooters on our campus, right? We can't control what students do off of OCPS's campus, but due to a large number of accidents, injuries, and we've had several students die because of being on e-bikes and e-scooters. And we also had a governor that just vetoed a bipartisan bill that would have at least put in some common sense rules and established a framework and would sort of start tracking some accidents so we could make even, better rules and laws around this. It was vetoed by Governor DeSantis in early July. And so we're at a position now where there's no statewide framework for regulating e-bikes and e-scooters. Very few cities and counties have put forth anything that really regulates it. And this is not a dig on them. I understand they were probably waiting for the state to do something too, and that didn't happen. But unfortunately, we're in the position of having school start in about a month. And so until we have some kind of framework, some kind of rules, laws, ordinances, the school board discussed this past Tuesday to not allow elementary and middle school students to have a e-scooter or e-bike on our campus, and having some regulations at the high school level as well. Haven't quite figured that out yet, and it hasn't been voted on yet. There's going to be another work session before we're voting on it, so it's still under consideration. But I think the concern is just our students are getting hurt. Our students are getting killed. Other community members are getting killed. I mean, I talked to someone, a scooter went through her windshield, her car windshield. It's impacting a lot of people, and nothing is happening really to ameliorate it. And so it's sort of leaving it on us to do something. And I think from my personally, I don't see this as necessarily a ban forever. I see it as
nothing is forever. Except for my love for you. That's forever.
But it's at this point right now, I think this is something that makes sense. And I just want to say, I really feel, honestly, I've heard from the most part, I feel like most people in the community seem to support this move, but I have heard from some that don't. And I do feel for parents who their kids are riding these things with helmets, and they understand the rules of the road, and they are being courteous, and they are being good members of our community and riding them. And I understand that to them, this doesn't feel fair, and I can understand that. I do think if more parents were teaching their children how to ride these appropriately, we wouldn't be in this situation. Unfortunately, we are. So
yeah, actually, that it actually makes me think of AI for a moment, which is very different. But you saying if everyone just used it, the way they were e-bikes and e-scooters, it would be less of a problem. Similarly with AI, if everyone just used AI for just to help research or whatever, maybe it wouldn't be so destructive. But sorry, that's a different discussion, but it made me think of it.
Also being discussed this month.
We have lots of thoughts. We've talked about before. I'm sure we will talk about it again. I had 2 other thoughts on e-bikes and e-scooters. One, it is interesting to just be a person who's getting older. When I was 13, I had this thing called a GoPed, which was essentially an e-bike but gasoline, or e-scooter but gasoline powered. That thing went pretty fast, and I modified it so it went even faster. But I was zipping around Clearwater without a helmet. God knows how dangerous that was, and so I want to, it is funny just to realize that you get older and you're that was actually really dangerous. But also, I have, as someone, as we both care deeply about the environment and want to live in a world where less people are driving cars and less emissions going into the world, in theory, e-bikes and e-scooters are great things. They are electrified, and, in theory, people don't have to get in their cars. But to your point of not everyone follows the rules. we don't live in a world where it is safe to have them with our current like bike lanes and traffic laws and cars, like in a vacuum where we were all riding e-bikes and e-scooters and we were drastically reducing our carbon emissions. Like that would be fabulous. But we are in a place, to your point, where kids are getting injured, seriously injured, kids are getting killed because we just don't have an infrastructure at the moment that supports these vehicles in a way that is safe. And, you know, you talking about, this is far less strong anecdote than what you've talked about, you know, student injuries. But like I will go on TikTok and I like one genre of TikToks that come across my feed is doctors saying what they would never do. And like a thing that I've heard multiple times is doctors being like, I would never ride an e-bike or e-scooter, which is to say that they've seen what these injuries mean in an ER. And I take, you know, it's just a TikTok, but I take that stuff seriously of like, these are like, if a doctor is like, if multiple doctors are like, I would never ride an e-bike or e-scooter. I never let my kid. I think that probably says something about the danger and what, you know, these kids who are going 20, 25 miles per hour without a helmet. Like we don't need to spend any more time thinking about what that could look like in the worst case scenario, but it's pretty terrible. And I think the work you're doing to make kids as safe as possible and others who are interacting with those e-bikes and e-scooters is really wonderful. So I'm glad you're doing it. And that was a long ramble.
No, that's okay. But it did make me think of just two things. I mean, first of all, I totally agree with you in terms of I want to actually see fewer cars out there. Like I actually want to see, you know, safe use of e-bikes and e-scooters. And I also do want to remind people what we have not banned and what I do not anticipate ever banning are human-powered scooters and human-powered bikes. Those are still allowed. So, like, let's just remember there are still alternate ways for students to be able to get to school. Maybe not quite as fun, but they're still there, and they are fun. Let's bring the fun back in regular, like, bikes and scooters. But
I thought you were going to say walking. We haven't banned walking yet.
We haven't been walking uphill in the snow yet here, so no. So I just want to say that, and I 100% agree and would love to do more work and to see more collaboration when it comes to building multi-use pathways. The wider pathways that we see, you know, occasionally in our county and our city, we need more of those. I think we need more of those to make sure that, you know, we can have, you know, bikes and scooters and people walking and, you know, not having to have these on the streets. So I would hope that our county and cities are able to invest in the infrastructure that would make these sorts of things safer.
Maybe you should be on like a city or county commission. You can work on those things. Have you thought about that? You're busy.
Not going to get me. Okay. I'm too busy right now.
Too busy. Okay. A couple other things I want to talk before we throw the interview. We mentioned this last week, 2 weeks ago, because we were gone. We were in Chicago. Yeah. It was so fun. Got to hang out with a bunch of your family. It was really lovely. What's one highlight from Chicago? Obviously you grew up there. You've been doing this 4th of July celebration for a few decades now, but I don't know. What was a highlight for you?
I mean, just generally Midwest is best, and summer in the Midwest is amazing. There's just nothing that beats it. But I will say, I think one, you know, and I've said multiple times, we're absolute White Sox fans in our house. But the White Sox were not playing while we were there. So we ended up going to a Cubs game, and it was a super fun Cubs game. I have never been to a game where there were like, 23? It was like 23 to something.
Yeah, it was like 23 to 3.
There were so many home runs, so many hits. It was so fun. Like the crowd was fun. It was hot, but we were sitting at the very top, and so we got a good breeze. But it was a really fun game.
Oh, it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it, and it was wild because we left after the 7th. It was like 12 to 2 when we left, and then like as we were walking on the stadium, we heard more cheering, and then like little did we know another 10 runs would be scored. So it was a lot of fun to be at that game. I think I'll say two things. One, got to eat some good veggie dogs from Portillo's and grilled in the home. Love a Chicago dog. Number 2 was I brought my Switch 2 and played Mario Kart with your nieces and nephews, and really felt like I bonded over Mario Kart. I mean, I destroyed them as I should have. No mercy. But it was a lot of fun.
I guess 5-year-olds aren't as good as you. So I guess good way to show them.
Stay out of my way, 5-year-olds. But speaking, I do want to, because I love giving you a hard time. Speaking of driving, I've realized that because you are the sweetest, most wonderful, kind, generous person, but your kryptonite is bad drivers. What do you think of this take? Because if there's a bad driver around you, You have no time for them.
Well, it's all. I just want also people to like drive the speed limit.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a speed limit posted for a reason, and if you're not driving the speed limit, just pull over to the side and let people go by you. That's all I'm saying. I don't need to go past there, but I do get irked
Yeah.
in the car. That is true. Who doesn't? Who doesn't? Come on.
Yeah, that's fair.
But luckily, so we did take a longer trip this week to Tampa on Friday.
We were actually in Tampa 3 different times this past week.
It was a strange time, but we did go on Friday for Salute and Happy Days at the Commodore Theater. Always a fun time. And you were hosting yet again this week. And just tell us who the guest was.
Well, so our guest at Salute and Happy Days, and also former guest of the podcast, was a school board member from Hillsborough County, District 3, Jessica Vaughn. And so she was wonderful. For folks who don't remember or haven't heard, this is an improv show that I do once a month at the Commodore Theater in Tampa. And how the show works is we interview a notable Tampeño, of which Jessica is, of course, notable, and a Tampeño. We interview them, get their stories, and then improvise scenes based off those stories. So Jessica was a wonderful guest, and we had a lot of fun. I always love being back in the theater, and I've hosted that show the last couple of times. We mentioned briefly on this podcast, unfortunately, a member of the Commodore community, Justin Peters, one of the owners of the theater, is undergoing treatment for cancer. So he is not able to be there at this moment, but we're sending him lots of love. And he is certainly in our hearts, and I'm not as good as Justin at hosting that show, but I try to have some fun, try to have a good time. You enjoyed the show?
Oh, it was a great show. And I also loved, it was a really good crowd. There were, first of all, a lot of people there to see Jessica, see the show. Mm-hmm. And I loved she had some support staff from the school board office there. So shout out to School Board Services. Thank you for coming. I think the superintendent was supposed to come, but unable at the last minute. But we also met someone running for county commission in Hillsborough. He was in the audience. So that was really fun. It was just a good all around crowd.
It was really great. Do you have any scenes that stuck out in your mind that were a lot of fun?
I did have to admit I enjoyed the Housewives of Hillsborough County School Board, or like what it wasn't Housewives of Hillsborough County School Board, but it was like in that vein. Yeah. Because of some of the things Jessica just had kind of just said about some of the exchanges that they've had. So I thought that was actually pretty funny. What about you?
That was a great scene. Ron DeSantis made an appearance, not in actual life, but as a character, and was summarily booed, like both laughed at heartily and summarily booed. Shouts to my castmate John, who crushed it as Ron DeSantis, and it was very funny. A little bit of like you're laughing but also crying a little bit, but he was very fun. So Ron DeSantis made a couple of appearances that I enjoyed. When are you going to be doing improv? When
Never.
is it? Okay. Well, never say never. Nothing is forever. But something that is here in the now and running for office, Steph, when can folks vote?
August 18th is the day. The election for school board chair in Orange County, Florida will be over on August 18th. That is the day. Vote on or before August 18th.
All right. With that in mind, please enjoy our interview with Angie Gallo.
Welcome to the podcast, school board member for District 1, Angie Gallo, who is also running for school board chair in the election this year, which is on August 18th. Do you like how I got that all into the first opening sentence, August 18th?
I love it. Vote August 18th. This race will be decided August 18th.
Well, thank you for being here today, Angie. We just wanted to get to know you a little bit better. And I know you as someone who sits next to you on the dais, and I'll share more about how I got to meet you in the past. But if you could just let our listeners know, tell us a little bit about who is Angie Gallo.
I would love to. So I was born and raised in Central Florida. I'm a Florida native. You don't find those too often nowadays. But I grew up in Brevard County, graduated from public schools, moved over to go to UCF, go Knights, huge fan of UCF, and then got married, raised my kids on the east side of town, still live in the same house that my husband and I bought right after we got married. And both of my children are a product of public education. My youngest is a teacher. My oldest works in the nonprofit field. She works for Big Ben Cares up in Tallahassee, which helps people with HIV/AIDS manage and find housing and do all the she's just a very kind person that helps others, and I love that about her. Both my kids have a purpose. One's a teacher and one works in a nonprofit. So she's doing great work up in Tallahassee, been married for 32 years to my husband. And I've always kind of lived in this education space. I got involved when my oldest started school through the PTA, through SAC. That led to more education kind of advocacy when the sky was falling in 2007, 2008, fought against the parent trigger bill. I've been around for a long time fighting to create good laws, good policies for public education that benefits our students.
That's amazing. Well, I just want to go back. Can you explain what the parent trigger bill was? Because it sounds a little bit like it has to do with guns. So I just want to make sure that listeners understand what the parent trigger bill means.
So the parent trigger bill is a different version of the Schools of Hope. So this was back in the early 2008s, 2007s, somewhere around there. I think it was Senate Bill 6. It was actually the one that Governor Christ vetoed because it did make its way through the second year. The first year, Paula Dockery voted against it. God bless her, love her. And then the next year it got through, and then Governor Christ vetoed it. But what it does is basically what the School of Hopes do. It was called the Parent Trigger Bill because the parents could trigger an overtaking of that school to turn it into a charter school.
Got it.
So what the Schools of Hope now does is it allows them to come onto our campus if we have less enrollment. And there is, they did pass a law that allows teachers and students to turn a school into a charter if you get 50% of the vote. In fact, those last 2 legislative cycles ago, they changed that law so that the teachers don't have a say. Just the parents can turn the school into a charter school. And it only has to be 50% of the people attending a meeting could vote. So essentially, if you had 50% of the population show up, of your parents, and then 50% of that showed up, they could turn it into a charter school. So really 25% of the parents could turn a public school into a charter school. If that doesn't scare the bejesus out of us, I don't know what does.
Right. So it just sounds like they're all related to making it easier for charter schools to sort of take over our traditional public schools.
Yes.
But what I really took from that is that you've been deeply, deeply involved with public education.
Yes.
Let's see, 2007, 2008, I was in the midst of having babies and was definitely not as tuned in. And you were fighting the good fight, almost now 20 years ago.
Yeah. I think when I first got involved, Dean Cannon was my rep from Winter Park, and then he went on to become Speaker of the House. And that's when I really got involved up in Tallahassee and started fighting for public education because the sky was falling funding-wise, and we were looking at removing sports and arts and music and all the things that students love from our middle schools and our high schools, and we couldn't let that happen. In fact, that is really what birthed the referendum. The one mill that board at the time went out for was because that I think scared the board, and they realized, okay, we can't count on Tallahassee to do what Tallahassee needs to do and prioritize public education. So they went out to the voters, and thankfully every year they've renewed that referendum. But that's why, because they recognized they had to find a local source of funding to keep these programs alive.
Well, I thought students love testing. That's what I thought they loved the most. Or did I get that wrong?
I think you got that wrong. I think that's why some parents are choosing to remove their students from public schools, because there is too much testing in our schools. And most of that is dictated from Tallahassee, so that we definitely needed to change some laws. And I've been working on that a long time. It's like beating your head against the wall when it comes to the testing and 33% of the teachers' evaluation being tied to some type of state testing or student testing.
Yeah. Well, so you've been involved in public education for a long time. You've been an amazing advocate. I am now going to say this is when I met you. We were both involved with the Orange County League of Women Voters. We were both on the education committee. I always say I joined as one does in 2016, and you were on the education committee, and you would always provide our legislative updates. And I remember just sitting there as a mom with young kids, and I still remember my kids would be in the corner playing with Matchbox cars and dominoes, and you would be giving us these amazing legislative updates, and you knew everything. You knew everything that was going on. You knew how to follow all the the laws, and I was so impressed. And I thought to myself, I want to be like that one day. Like, I want to be that knowledgeable and, that kind of in tune with what's going on. So that's really my first memory of you during those days. So
I appreciate that. So I had the same experience as someone else. I walked into Glen Ridge Middle School, and Dawn Stewart, who's a good friend of mine, she was the legislative chair for Orange County PTA. And she was doing the same thing. She was giving a legislative brief, and she was rattling off numbers and bills and what they were due and how they would harm public education and why we needed to be aware and what we needed to do as far as writing our legislators and getting involved in the process. And I did the same thing. I looked at her and I'm like, I want to be her. Like, I want to do that. I want to make a difference. I want to make sure that our public schools remain strong. And not long after that, several years, I became the Florida PTA chair, legislative chair. And so when I was at the League of Women Voters, that was like in my heyday when I was spending a lot of time up in Tallahassee. I spent a lot of time in Tallahassee following bills, talking in committee, talking to legislators. I was trying to get the recess bill done, which we can. And if we have time, I have a funny story about the recess bill, because I worked very hard to get it passed with the recess moms. And then because I was a PTA legislative chair, they put it in a horrible bill that was harmful to public education. And then I had to go back and ask my members to write everybody to vote it down. Like, we were sending it to Senator Scott, asking Senator Scott to veto the bill, like not to accept the bill, because it was written into 7069 and it had really damaging language for public schools. Some of the language has since been removed. But I worked so hard, and I had, when you get the deputy chief of staff from the speaker's office calling you going, what the hell, Angie? And me going, well, why'd you put it in a poison pill? Like, you could have left it alone.
Wait, can you explain that a little bit more? So this was within the recess bill, they added the poison pill? Is that what you're saying?
So the recess bill, we were trying to get it passed. The first year we had it passed through the House with 2 no votes. And I'm going to tell you who those 2 no votes are, because that's extremely important. And then the second year, we have full support in the Senate, and we needed the House. The 2 no votes in the House at the time, and you'll recognize these names, was Richard Corcoran, who the next year went on to be our Speaker of House. The second one that was a no vote on it was Mike Beleka, Representative Beleka. He was the chair of our Education Committee. So the minute that I saw that those 2 voted no on the recess bill, I was like, oh, damn. So we were very purposeful in who we got to sponsor the bill. So Representative Placencia sponsored it for us in the House, and the recess moms and I took a road trip down to Miami and convinced Senator Flores to sponsor the bill. And then I took a detour over to Speaker Corcoran. I met with Speaker Corcoran because I wanted to share with him all the research on why recess was good. Like, this is a good idea, blah, blah, blah. I did the same thing with Beleka. Representative Beleka and I actually became friends just because, I was, he understood that I was there doing this for the kids. There was no animosity. Like, this is a good bill. Right. So we had it in a standalone, and we were having trouble moving it within the House. And we got it through the Senate. We got it tagged on to all these different bills, trying to create an avenue, amendments, trying to create an avenue. And then at the last minute, when they were doing budget conferencing, they attached it to, I believe it was 7069, which was a huge budget conforming bill that was done in the cloak of darkness. And there was a lot of stuff in there that the PTA didn't agree with, that our members didn't agree with, that we had positions on that totally were against our positions, the bill, what was in the bill. So I had to go do a legislative update to all of our PTA members in Orange County, and then I had to ask them to, I was in tears. Like, I'd worked so hard, and I had to say, we're going to have to ask for a veto on this bill because we're not a one position organization, right? We're not, our only position isn't recess. It's all of the other things, and we can't give up everything else just to gain one thing. Even if that thing is incredibly good for children, the other things were equally as bad for our students. So at the end of the day, it did pass. Senator Flores was wonderful because, we had to go to her, and she worked so hard on the bill, as did Placencia, and we had to be like, hey, I'm so sorry, but we are going to ask for a veto on this bill, and I hope you understand. They were both wonderful. They understand we had to do what we had to do. There was conversations that it would get vetoed by Scott. I knew it wouldn't. I had an argument with several senators in the state house, and they're like, I heard it's going to get vetoed. And I was like, I need you to put your beer down, because I hate to tell you that, like, this aligns with Governor Scott. Like, and Corcoran, Speaker Corcoran is a very smart man. He didn't work as hard as he did to get everything in this bill passed, not to ensure that he built a relationship with Governor Scott to get it passed. And that's exactly what happened. They did. They were all at the signing, and it did pass. So I'm thankful for the recess. And then the following year and the year after that, they realized some of the unintended consequences with some of the other things in that language, and it did get dialed back a little bit. So that's the good news.
I have a broader question. You've been in this world for a bit. What do you think has changed in terms of, like, I know a lot has changed, but like concerns from parents that have changed over time, and maybe something that has stayed the same? Like, what has been universal? Either one of those would be interesting.
So I think what's universal is the love of public schools. Like, if you ask a parent, do you like the school your child goes to, your public school? They're going to go, oh my gosh, it's amazing. The teachers are amazing. I love it there. If you ask them on a more broader level, do you like, Orange County Public Schools? Do you like the Department of Education? That's where you lose parents.
Yeah.
And where they kind of, that support falls to the wayside. But I think what has remained consistent, especially in Orange County, is the love of public schools from parents. And they've over and over again shown that they support public schools with their money, which there's no greater way to show that you support something than with the dollars out of your wallet. So I think that's the one thing that's remained consistent. I think what COVID did is, at first, when everybody was at home and learning, and we were learning online, parents are like, oh my gosh, I don't know how teachers do it. Like, they were praising teachers. And then about 6 months later, something shifted, and we got into this fear mongering and these cultural wars where, we were being called pedophiles and groomers and all these awful things that our teachers don't do. Because I promised that if we were going to indoctrinate, if any teacher was going to indoctrinate, it would be 100% literacy by third grade. Like, I mean, that's what matters.
Yeah.
And so it is just the fear mongering and just the constant cultural attacks have really taken a hit on public schools. And honestly, it's quite unfair, because those things are not happening in our schools. And our schools are a safe, wonderful, inviting place for our kids.
I love it.
Why do you think those fears, why do you think they resonated so much with people? I mean, knowing that they're untrue, I mean, they're blatantly untrue, by and large. I mean, I guess you could probably find, 1 in a million, something is happening, of course, anywhere. But it did seem to resonate with people in a way that I found so strange, given how much people do really love their schools and they love their teachers. Any idea why?
I struggle with this because, I think hate's having a moment. And I think that when that happened and the fear mongering began and the fake news started supporting it and spreading it, people just started to believe it. It was almost like this cult atmosphere where they started to believe it. And I think for people who don't support our LGBTQ plus community, for those who have different beliefs, or a set of values than we do, it gave them the opportunity to show us who they are, right? Like, when hate has a moment, and when you have the leader of this great country call people names and be nasty and mean to people, it gives people a license to do the same thing. And I think that's what happened.
Yeah.
I mean, and on top of COVID, I think just making us all kind of bananas. And I think, like,
like, for the first time in our life, we couldn't leave our house, or we couldn't, move around like nothing has ever happened to us like that.
Right.
And I think we all came out just a little bit wonky, like,
And I think just grasping for something to control. I think that was a part of it too. Like, so much of this is out of our control. What can we control? Well, let's look at what can we do here more in our, in our school, and what can we, So I think that's part of it.
I agree.
Too.
I think there was time too, as well. It's so easy to be a keyboard warrior and to go online. We know hate on social media is having a moment. And so I just think it gave them more time. People were at home together, and you're right. It was the one thing they can control.
Oh, can I ask, like, just sort of one other side note question?
Yeah.
And of course, when we introduce this, you will have already heard it, listener, our introduction about being careful what we talk about. So I'm trying to find interesting ways to talk about your time on the school board that does not conflict with sunshine. But one question I do have, you mentioned keyboard warriors. This is something Steph and I talk about. How do you deal with the public comments online on Facebook. Like, how do you deal with that sort of nastiness that you get from people?
Well, I've been called a pedophile several times this week, so that's fine.
Oh my gosh.
You know what? My viewpoint on it is, if you're going to run for any type of office, if you're going to be a public servant, you've got to have thick skin, right?
Yeah.
And so the way I view it is, these people don't know me. They don't know who I am. They don't know my heart. They're not paying my bills. They're not somebody that I love. And so their opinion doesn't matter, because their opinion of me isn't about who I am.
Right.
It's their perception of who I am. And their perception is extremely wrong. So I just take it with a grain of salt. I most of the time, I don't know who's making the comments. I don't want to know who's making the comments. Now, if someone, I trusted made a comment, that I would find that extremely hurtful. But people that I wouldn't take opinions from, I'm not going to take insults from. Like, I'm not going to listen to their insults.
And I love that. And I know this is what you meant. This is in differentiation from people who are commenting who have actually legitimate concerns that you want to address. Yeah, we're talking about
I mean,
people.
If someone comes to me with a legitimate concern about, hey, this is happening, I will absolutely reach out to them and talk to them. But just the nastiness, you just got to let it go.
Yeah.
Let it go.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. So you've been super involved with public education. You were an advocate. Your daughters went through public schools, and then you were involved with PTA. You were up in Tallahassee and Miami and meeting with, all of these lawmakers. And then what made you decide that you were going to run for office? Like, how did you get from, I'm kind of a behind the scenes advocate having these meetings, to like, no, actually, I'm going to put myself out there and I'm going to run for office? And I think that was 2018, right?
Yes.
In 2018.
So I had been approached about running for school board, and I was mulling it around. And I didn't know, I was trying to figure out where I could make a biggest difference. Because I felt like I was moving the needle up in Tallahassee. The recess bill did pass. We got Baker Act reform that we were working on. We were able to kill some really bad gun legislation, like open carry and campus carry and those type of bills. And there was work that still needed to be done in Tallahassee. So I struggled with that decision, but I got a call one day that basically said, charity starts at home. I need you to come home. Like, I need you to bring your knowledge, bring it back home, serve on the school board. My daughter, my youngest at the time, was graduating from high school. And so I thought this would be a good time to run. I could do both. At the time, I felt like I could really do both. I could serve on the board in a meaningful and impactful way that would be good for teachers and students, because I did have some issues. As a parent, I had some issues. Mm-hmm. And then I thought, and I could also do Tallahassee. And I did for the first couple of years. I was able to do both things. And then we just got so busy within the district now that it's really, and I got the Baker Act bill. We were able to get that over the finish line and get that passed, which is a wonderful bill for our students that mandates parental notification. But so once that bill passed, I kind of stepped away from Tallahassee a little bit to be here, but it was a hard decision, and I waited so long to make it that two other people got in the race. It was a three. Not that they wouldn't have anyways. I'm sure they would have, but it was a 3-person race, and I was lucky enough to get out in the primary.
That's great.
Yeah, well, it was strategy. I'd work on campaigns, so I had the knowledge of what it was to run a campaign, so I wasn't coming in cold. And both of my opponents were from Winter Park, so I just knew I had to get in, that strategy part, which is what I love about campaigning and politics, is like, if I focus here, here, and here, and I can grab those, kind of to put a dent there in their votes, if, I should win the East. If I can't win the East after everything I've done in the East, I don't deserve to be a school board member. So I was able to come out. And so for everybody who thinks their vote doesn't matter, I got to say this. I was at 49.99% at 9 o'clock the day of election. Yeah. And I'm like, and the next closest person to me was at 35. And I was like, I cannot believe I got to go to November. And then some of the absentee votes were counted. The provisional votes were coming in. I had to wait till Thursday to find out if I won. And I won that election by 14 votes. I came out in August by 14 votes. So for all of you out there that like, my vote doesn't matter, my vote doesn't count, I'm telling you, there are so many stories like that where every single vote matters. And had those 14 people not voted, I would have had to go to a runoff in November.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
And can we just, for listeners who may not this is like, I feel like common knowledge for us that you can win outright in a primary if one of you,
if it's a nonpartisan race. So if it's a nonpartisan race, if somebody gets 50+1% of the vote, they get out in the primary. Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
And also just a reminder, all of school board races are nonpartisan. So
yes. And many of them only have 2 people in it, like my race. So it will absolutely be decided on August 18th.
How excited are you about that?
I'm not saying I'm counting the days, but it's like 38, 37. How many minutes? No, I'm just no, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And being on the board, at the same time and going from running a seated race, right, a districted race versus a countywide race is no joke. Like, it's so much more work.
So that's actually something that we wanted to ask too. So when you ran for your first 2 terms, so you are now finishing your second term, so you've served on the school board for 8 years. So you just have so much experience having been on for that long. I mean, I feel like it takes a couple of years just to understand
Absolutely.
what is even going on in a large district and who the people are and what, all the policies. So I think that is so important that you have served for 8 years. But so for those 8 years, as just a refresher, we have 7 single member districts, and then our chair runs countywide. So how is that different running in a countywide basis versus your previous 2 elections where you were just running for District 1?
It's so different. Like, in District 1, I could and did walk my way into that seat. Like, I could knock on enough doors. I could have enough conversations. I could do enough meet and greets. We could put enough signs up in the district. You can walk your way into a district seat if you work hard enough. You can't do that in a countywide seat. So your strategy changes, right? It goes about making connection with voters. It's more about raising money so you can get your messaging out so that people know who you are versus who your opponent is. So it's just strategically a different race. It's a lot more work because Orange County is extremely large. It takes me, and I live on the east side, to go to the west side takes me an hour to get there.
Wow.
So just the miles on my car is a huge difference than what I'm used to. But it's about raising money and voter connection. And we do walk with other candidates to get our name ID out there. I still think that's the best way to reach the voters, knocking on a door, but it's difficult to do that at a county level. So you got to count on like digital and mail and other ways to reach voters.
I would like to know, well, hopefully I know somewhat, but I'm always looking to be educated. Can you talk to us the difference between being the chair of the school board versus being a quote unquote regular member?
Sure. So we all make the same amount of money. Some people think, oh, well, you make so much more money when you get to be chair. No, you don't. You're making the same amount of money as the other 7 lovely ladies that you're sitting next to. But the biggest difference is unique to Orange County because we are the only county in Florida that has an elected at-large chair, which means unless they're removed from office, you're stuck with them for 4 years. So if you have somebody that is a chair that doesn't really represent the community or the needs of the community, there's nothing we can do about it. It'll just be chaos for 4 years until the voters elect somebody new. Where in other districts, they would just remove them as chair. They would, by vote, they could remove them. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that the chair sets the agenda, really controls the mic during the meetings. And by controlling the mic, they control the mic, so they can say whatever they want whenever they want. And they're the perceived leader, really, of the school board, even though they're just one of 8. They're the perceived leader, so they set the tone and the culture and kind of the expectations for the entire community. And I say that because that's so important. You want somebody at the head that represents the entire community, that represents all students, that represents all families, and is not there just to push a specific agenda that she believes she's been called to do. I think that's very important. The other thing is they get 2 votes. So in the form of a tie, they're the tiebreaker. They get to break that tie. And that's very important because while it's not used a lot, it has been used. Unfortunately, I'm usually on the losing side. Those votes. But So it's really important that voters understand that the control that the chair has and the inability of the school board to do anything about it if they're not happy with who's sitting in that seat.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And so just to clarify, so in other districts, the school board members themselves vote for the chair, and it's usually for a year. It's kind of how we vote for vice chair, I feel like.
Yes.
Like we vote for the vice chair, that kind of changes every year. And but obviously in Orange County, it's the voters. And so you're right, they're there for 4 years.
Yes.
So why did you decide to run for chair?
Because it is such an important position that I felt like I couldn't leave it up to chance. And we're kind of at a pivotal moment within public education with the challenges that we face. We just consolidated 7 schools. Our enrollment continues to decline. We have some real challenges. Our teachers are paid 50th in the nation. Healthcare costs are rising. I'm hearing heartbreaking stories from teachers on they don't know how they're going to live. I have teachers moving back in with their parents. Like, we're just at a pivotal time, and I feel like this point in time calls and needs a leader that is experienced, that is passionate, that is empathetic, that supports the community as a whole and has the same values and the beliefs as the majority of our community. And that's why I'm running. I couldn't leave it up to chance. I strongly support public education. I think economic mobility through education is the ultimate equalizer. Mm-hmm. It's what provides a strong and skilled workforce. And we just can't leave that up to chance. Like, we need people who want to fight for public education. And we need people in the chair that actually sent their kids to public education. I think that's very important. So that's why I'm running.
Well, I'm so glad you are. So.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's good to have. I think it's just important, especially when I think about your past and just all the experience you've had, your ability to work with so many different types of people, and just the years and years. I mean, it's hard to, I'm a studier, and I've been involved in this for years, not as many as you, but it's hard. It's just not something that you can make up in a short amount of time. It just takes like the time on the ground of like walking the halls in Tallahassee, of being in the school board, of talking with the various members of our district and like having conversations and exchanging information. I mean, it just takes time, and it's just one of those things that, experience is, it's just hard to replicate without actually doing it.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
And if folks want to learn more, there was recently an article in the Orlando Sentinel. It's actually on the front page of the printed Sentinel today, talking about your campaign versus your opponent. So folks should check that out. And I know we don't want to spend too much time talking about your opponent, but I do want to quote from one small piece of that, because your opponent is Alicia Ferrant. And here's just one quick paragraph. Ferrant says she does not, this is quoting from the Orlando Sentinel. Ferrant says she doesn't see herself as a partisan politician. Instead, she's a mother on a, quote, kingdom assignment, unquote, from God to, quote, get our schools on the right track, end quote. So I think folks should read the entire article in the Sentinel to see where you stand, your opponent. But I thought that was just an important paragraph to lift out for the kind of leadership your opponent is espousing.
Did you say that article was on the front page of the Orlando Sentinel today?
It was on the front page.
Was it above the fold or was it below the fold?
It was absolutely above the fold.
Well, people must be understanding how important this race is.
It is an incredibly important race, and that's how you get above the fold.
Yes. And I think it's important just to note that true public servants are here to be led by the people for the people, right? Mm-hmm. Like that's why we run for these positions, because we want to represent our constituency well. And there's been many times that I've taken a vote that maybe I personally didn't align with or I didn't agree with, but it was what my community wanted. It's what my community expected from me. And so that's how I voted, because I'm here to represent them. I'm not here to push an agenda or push my personal agenda or push my personal beliefs on anybody. That's not what public schools is about. If that's what you want, go to a private Christian school. I mean, we have wonderful private Christian schools, but there should be a separation of church and state in our schools. I think that's what our community wants. I think that's what our parents want. And I've spoken to many pastors that say that that's what they want as well.
Absolutely. Well, and that's one of the things I notice about you is you really are out there getting opinions from many different people, and you consult with a lot of people before you make decisions, which is something that I appreciate.
Yeah, I try to get that's my job. That's our job, right? Like really listening and getting out in the community and having those thoughtful conversations. And it may not always mean that you're going to agree with the person that you're talking to, but it does allow you to get a different perspective than maybe that you have. And I think that that's very important. And I think that true leadership, true courageous leadership looks like listening to diverse thoughts, diverse ideas, and be willing to say, you know what, I might have gotten that one wrong. And I think you're right. And I need to do some more research. It's about leading with your heart and leading while you're listening to your community.
You know, I think it's interesting too, when you're talking to people about various issues and maybe they don't agree with a decision that's being made, that's currently being made. But when you are constantly gathering a diversity of opinion, there's going to be some point in the future that you can call back to that opinion and, oh, you know what, actually, they said this 6 months ago about this other issue, but I think it actually applies here. And so just constantly, gathering gathering that information, I think is just important, maybe not just for the issue at hand in that one conversation, but for just future leadership.
Absolutely. I think that it's I always say that when you get to know somebody, you get to trust them and they kind of get to trust you, right? Like when you get to know people, some of the issues that people fearmonger or are worried about, when you get to know the people that are living that life, and you become friends with them and you like them, you can't disparage them. Like you can't disparage them. Like you're able, when you open yourself up to that diversity, then you do have a diversity of thought because people you care about are living a life, and you care about them and you want them to be happy and successful and to thrive and to be all that they can be. And that's what diversity brings to you, an understanding of people who live or think differently than you. And I think it's important to have that diversity because that's how you lead with empathy and that's how you lead with grace.
Yep. Bringing in the humanity into every decision.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so I'm just going to ask a campaign question.
Sure.
Okay. Can you tell us the best thing about this campaign, what you find the most fun, and what you find the least fun? This is just kind of a fun getting to the end question.
So the most fun is getting to meet the voters, being around all of the great people that I get to be around on a daily basis, whether it's a joint canvas, we're talking at a hobnob, we're at a meet and greet, we're at a town hall. Like the connections that I've made have been my favorite. The support that I've received from elected officials and others have just made me extremely grateful. I just have such a grateful heart right now. My least favorite thing is absolutely easy. My campaign manager will tell you what it is, and that is dialing for dollars. I do not like doing it.
The worst.
I do not like doing it, but it's a necessary evil to be able to get your message out there. But that is... I'd knock on doors all day long if it made me make a phone call.
Yeah. No, I get that for sure. It's funny. I was on social media the other day, and another candidate who's running for a completely different office, she was saying something like, "Only 38 days, and no one is more sick of me than me."
You do get tired of your own voice because you're talking so much. You're trying to get your message out, and you're giving that stump speech over and over and over again, and you do get tired of your own voice.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, I like to always end asking this question. What do you do to recharge?
I do a couple things. Number one, Pilates. I love Pilates because it's about just that mind and breath and body connection. So I do that to unwind. I spend time with my family, like my husband, and that centers me, and it reminds me at the end of the day that no matter what happens, I am who I am. I'm still going to be loved by the same people. I'm still going to be living in the same house. I still have parents that I love deeply and friends that I love deeply. Like none of that changes. So for me, that's just something that centers me and helps me recognize while this is a calling and this is something that I want to do, it's not all of who I am.
That's a great answer.
I love that. That makes me think I have another question. You mentioned you've been married, 32 years?
Yes, 32 years.
And you've served 2 terms as a school board member. Do you have any advice for me as the partner of a school board member? Like what can I do? What has your husband done to be supportive and to be, to help, someone who goes through a lot?
Patience, patience, and listening. Because a lot of times, we can't speak to one another. So when we come home, you're hearing about it. My husband's hearing about it. But I think it's just the listening, the patience. My husband will watch the board meetings sometimes, and he'll call me, and he loves me, obviously. So he supports me. So and I'll be in a bad mood, or I'll be mad about something that happened, and he'll be cracking jokes. And, and he'll just revalidate like everything that I believe, and then we'll laugh about it. And so I think just, when you're best friends with your partner and you have that type of relationship, and y'all kind of are in the same field, so you understand it. My husband has gotten to understand it, but he's my biggest supporter. He just spent this week building out large yard signs.
Oh, I love it.
And every time he walks, he wears my shirt. He thinks it's making a difference. So he walks every morning.
So sweet.
And so he has Angie Gallo shirt on, like he's still wearing the 4 District one. He goes, they don't know, they can't see it. And he'll walk like different patterns and wave at people. He's like the creepy guy waving on the sidewalk so people see his shirt. So he's just, he's a great guy. I love him to pieces, and he's hugely supportive.
I love it.
I love wearing Steph's shirt around places. I don't get asked about it enough. I always want people to ask me about it, like, because I'll go to hockey games, I'll be wearing it, and I'll be like, I want to be like, this is my girlfriend, but I.
You're just gonna tell them.
Yeah.
But that was such a great question, because that is so important. I think it's, we focus so much on the person sometimes who's running for office, but every person who is running for office has, hopefully a great partner, but like always a great team behind them. And the team behind them, like whether it's great campaign managers or great friends or the great campaign team, or just your normal friends who actually know nothing about your campaign, but remind you that you're like a real person who has a, life outside of this. It's like sometimes I think they're more invisible, but they're so important, and they're so critical for anyone who's in the spotlight.
Oh, absolutely. My daughter just got engaged, and
Congratulations!
Yes, Lindsay, my youngest, got engaged. Thrilled for her, but I'm a little busy right now, and so we wrote down my husband. My husband's been making the venue calls, so he's been calling venues. He's been going online. He's been helping with the wedding planning until I can get through this election. And so that's just another example of what a great man he is. He did just retire in December. Thank you. It's been a tremendous help for me, him just being retiring. But he definitely picks up the pieces when I'm not able to.
Awesome. I love it. Well, and since we've shouted him out a couple of times, and he is a former guest of the podcast, I do want to shout out Scott Hottenstein, your campaign manager.
Yes, he's sitting over here. Everybody say hi, Scott.
Hey, Scott.
Hey, Scott. Well, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you.
We're very excited. We feel very confident, and you sure are working hard, and Scott is making sure of that.
Yes, he does. Yes.
Well, thank you so much. I know you have a busy day ahead of you, so thanks for being on.
Thanks for having me.
Bye.
Bye.